Welcome to the Let's Talk About podcast, where we help you to have life's most difficult and challenging conversations. We talk about the things that most people avoid, the subjects that affect us on a day-to-day basis, but for some reason we find them difficult and challenging to talk about. We'll give you tips and strategies on how to have those conversations and support networks at the end of each podcast if you need them. One of the biggest lessons I learnt as a hostage and crisis negotiator were that we all have a story. And in each one of our stories, there are lessons for us all to learn. Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's podcast. And I'm delighted to be joined by Heather. Heather, thank you so much for being here today. For those of you that are new to the podcast, the whole purpose of the podcast episodes is to touch on those really difficult and challenging conversations and how to open them up, how to have them without being afraid to talk about things that are quite emotional. And at the moment, we're talking about loss and how we deal with grief. And Heather, unfortunately, has experienced a lot of loss. There are some great things that have come from that loss, which I know you're going to share towards the end of the podcast. But in the meantime, I'm going to hand over to you and say, Heather, welcome. Tell our listeners a little bit about you, who you are, and a bit about your story.
Oh, thank you, Nikki, and thank you for inviting me. It's such a privilege to be on your podcast, so thanks for having me, and thank you to everybody that's listening in. So I'm Heather Rose. I live in Lancashire, a cold part of the UK. So we're treasuring this week of recording this podcast because we've got sunshine this week. Yeah. So I'm a mum of Isaac, who's 18, who has additional needs. So I always say he's got his own superpowers. So he's ADHD and autism. A mum to a Cocker Spaniel fur baby, is like a baby. It is like having a second child. And married to Barry as well, who is my second husband. And I always say he came to rescue me. Yeah, and my dad now lives with us as well after losing my mum just before COVID. My dad was very lonely, so he sold the family house and now lives with us. So yeah, it can be quite hectic in the household with all the different dynamics and ages and
Yeah.
a bit stressful sometimes to navigate. Yeah. So a bit about my story. Where do I start? So now I am a coach. I'm an NLP practitioner, deep structure practitioner. I help women in business primarily with mindset, confidence coaching and visibility. So helping them show up on social media or in life in general, so whether it's online or offline. And obviously I am now going towards something else which we'll go on to later on in the podcast. It'll fit in later as we discuss a little bit more about my story. So my story is quite huge really, which obviously we don't have time on this podcast to go into everything, but just in a nutshell, just to get an overview, I have been through lots of trauma, but I'm here still smiling and wouldn't have it any other way. I do strongly believe that we do go things for a reason, to make us stronger or to teach us something, or so we can then make a difference to other people in the world and change other people's lives through sharing our journeys and how we've overcome things. So it's turning negatives into positives rather than, I said this to someone yesterday, rather than being, I could easily go into that trauma circle and that victim mode of all the things that I've been through and be in a really black hole still and still not living my best life and letting all the trauma win, I suppose is the word. Or you can choose to look at the positives and how you can turn those negatives and that trauma into something positive to help others, which obviously I do now. So it started my journey really back at, I don't really remember much of my childhood. All I do remember is I have a brother and a sister who were older than me. There is 10 years difference between me and my sister. And then when I came into the world, it was very much, I think, a bit of a shock to the other two, having another sibling come into the pack when they've had all the attention, I suppose. And I always remember me and my sister, especially, never ever got on from an early age. I do remember that specifically. And my mum always used to tell me that she was very jealous of me as growing up. She's very self-absorbed, really. She's got a lot of problems, as my sister as well. I will say that. Mental health problems and all sorts of things. But I've never felt that's where it started. I think my journey of not feeling wanted, not feeling part of something, not feeling accepted. So it's obviously started from a very early age of not feeling that. And because as growing up, it became very apparent that I was very different to my siblings as well. I was more outgoing, I was more positive, I was more happy, going out, doing things and just cracking on with life. And the rest of the family are quite very quiet. So there's always the running joke in the family. And I did always used to laugh about it until quite recently, in the last 5 years, where I've been doing really intense work on myself. And I realised that actually did cause some trauma.
Mm.
That I always used to be a running joke that, oh, you're the milkmans. When we used to say, oh, you're so different, Heather, you're nothing like any of us, like, because I would like be much louder. And it always used to be a running joke, what I thought was a running joke at the time. But actually, it really did affect me being told that you were the milkmans. Again, it's another, I think, of not being accepted, being different, that, not feeling wanted, I suppose, came into it. So that, did really affect me. Going on to school life, obviously, I'm just trying to get through this as fast as I can. Was really bullied at school.
Don't rush, don't worry.
There's lots, Nikki. There's lots. I was really bullied at school. Again, didn't feel like I fitted in.
Mm.
Was bullied from quite an early age, especially when I got to high school. I had a brace, but not a normal brace. It was like a head brace that I had to wear. So I wear it for like 2 hours, and it was always had to be the time when I was in like school assembly. And it was like metal rods that attached to a hat, like a helmet on your head, that then attached to the brace.
Mm.
So obviously the bullying started from that, being called Metal Mickey and being different and standing out. And then the rest of the bullying came for being, overweight and you're fat, you're ugly, all those kind of things that you get bullying at school. That, I didn't fit in the in crowds. I wasn't with the in people. I was always like an outsider. And I just tried to put a brave face on and still be the outgoing Heather that I always was. And then, yeah, I was raped at the age of 16 and then tried to take my own life just after that. Well, probably, yeah, no, I raped at 15, sorry. Attempted suicide at 16. I kept everything to myself. I didn't tell anybody. The attempt of suicide, my mum did find me. It was over, tablets that I'd taken, and she did take me to hospital. But back in those days, it was very much hush hush. We don't talk about these things. Like to this day, I don't even think my dad still knows. It was very much put under the carpet. We won't speak about it again. And I felt very scared to talk about it because I didn't feel like I would be believed. That, you hear all these stories about it going to the police and they get away with it and they don't believe the victim, and all that was going through my head. Plus, my mum and dad were very respectful. It was like a village that we lived in, and everybody knew my mum and dad. My dad was a very respectful fireman at the time, and my mum was a nurse. So all those thoughts were going through my head, like, how can I tell them? How can I let people know, when they're so well known, we're going to be the talk of the village. So I kept it to myself. I didn't feel I had any close friends at the time, really. I had friends that now I know really were part of the bullying as well. So it all started from there, really. And then from then, I ended up going into relationships just because I wanted to feel wanted. So anybody that showed me any kind of affection, I would jump in at that, and ended up in a lot of domestic abuse, mental abuse relationships. My first marriage was mental abusive and very controlling. So, yeah, so it all started from there. From that, I've lost 7 babies as well through miscarriages. one miscarriage and nearly died from as well. One miscarriage was from being hijacked in a car. Me and my husband at the time were hijacked. So we were dragged from a car and was hit with baseball bats and crowbars and hospital, and they never give me a scan. It wasn't till I went later at 16 weeks that the baby had passed away. So it was from the trauma, definitely. Obviously they couldn't say it was definitely that, but I do believe it, it was from that trauma. So yeah, so what else? I think that's probably it in a nutshell, really. There's
I love
probably
the
more
way you say,
parts of the law.
I love the way you say that's it in a nutshell. Goodness me, Heather, that's like more trauma than a lot of people have had in a lifetime.
I know. And
That,
then
that's a
going through the
lot.
loss of my mum, grandparents, all that
Yeah.
kind of loss, going through mental health problems myself.
Mm,
Uh, I do struggle with severe anxiety and PTSD. I've been bullied since in the workplace, online. I was trolled online as well with one of my earlier businesses. It was National Troll Day, apparently, and I did a live, and there were like 10,000 trolls all telling to kill myself or why you're on this planet. So, yeah, I've been through lots and lots of different stuff, still navigating relationship, friendships, and business. I always seem to be caught up in people that take me for granted or mentally
mm,
abused, but yeah, probably bullying and stuff like that.
mm,
Because I'm very trustworthy and I just like, probably for a long time until recently, which I've worked on, I've been a people pleaser all myself, all my life. So you just people please to try and fit in, try and be wanted, try and have that love that you never got. My mum and my parents, I love them to bits. And, bless my mum now who's not here, but we never had that lovely, that love relationship. We never like had hugs or kisses. They never say that they love you or anything like that. So I always tried to get the love from somewhere else.
yeah.
So yeah, been a bit of a journey, a bit of a journey.
Yeah, a bit of just a bit of a journey, Heather. Thank you for sharing
My pleasure.
your story and all the events that you've been through that have brought you to where you are now in life. And we'll talk about the positive things that have come out of all of that. But I'd just like to go into some detail in some of the things that you mentioned around suicide, around the bullying, and also around the loss of those 7 babies, because I know there'll be some people that will be listening to this who might have a 16-year-old who's going through a really tough time and they don't know how to broach the conversation. And also there'll be people dealing with their own loss who are listening to this around the loss of babies. And there'll definitely be parents or maybe some even young people that are listening to this about bullying, because bullying is such damaging a damaging experience for those that end up on the other side of it. And teenagers, we know that teenagers are very complex anyway. But that feeling of trying to fit in as a teenager. And then of course, I'd love to talk about your son as well, and the things, because I know you've been on a journey there as well. And I feel that there'll be parents listening who have ADHD, autistic, superpowered young people in their life, and the things that you've done with that. So let's start with present day, because you mentioned it right at the very beginning. You said there's a lot of different ages in this house, and sometimes that can be challenging. And I think that we can probably all relate to that. I have my in-laws that live at the end of my garden, so that can be quite challenging sometimes, and a 19-year-old. But tell me a little bit about some of those conflicts that you find and what's worked for you to bring different age groups together in your
That's a good
household.
question. I think I'm still navigating it, to be honest, Nikki. I probably need to book in with you and have a course on how difficult
Yeah.
conversations.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, we're still navigating it. We're still trying to find our feet. It's nearly 3 years now since we've all been together. It'll be 3 years in October. It is getting easier. You just learn to let some things just potentially just not go over your head, but not pick your battles. And I think
Mm,
this is with children as well and teenagers. It's pick which battles you want to really battle and just rather reacting straight away, which I did right at the beginning. I used to get really irate straight away and it caused arguments and go straight in for the gun. Now I sit back and just try and just reflect on it, look at the other person's perspective first, how they're feeling in that situation, what they might be going through, or why they're doing something or saying something, and trying to. I think it was something that I think you've taught me to sit back and look at that as well from conversations we've had, and just sit with it before you respond to anything or have those conversations. Because sometimes we go in, don't we, when we're upset, anger, and it doesn't come out the way you want to come out, or you say things in the heat that, don't need to be said or are not meant in that way. So I think it's, something I've definitely learned is just to sit with it if you can do for a time before you respond, and make sure that you're responding it in a way that's going to be beneficial to everybody and not cause, animosity or, people to be having an argument, because that's the last thing you want when you're all living together, isn't it? Is that stress of people shouting and arguing and not feeling that they belong as well, not feeling, that their side of things are not, what's the word I'm looking for? Are not valid.
Yeah.
It's validating everybody's opinion, isn't it? Everybody's opinion is valid. So yeah, so I would say that is just to sit with it before you respond to things, and just try and respond in a calmly
It's lovely.
manner.
Yeah, perfect. Conflict management, perfect. Yeah. So that really just like pressing the pause button really before
Yeah.
answering and seeing the world from other people's perspectives. Yeah.
That's it, and I've learned that it's the tone of voice sometimes that you're talking as well, which my husband now, Barry, really needs to learn about that.
Barry, if you're listening.
Barry, listening, book in with Vicky, please. Because obviously with Isaac, especially in the early years up to obviously teenager years, that was a massive conflict, and it always used to be the tone of the voice that you spoke in. If you'd spoken a certain way, he'd deal with it a lot calmer. If it was in a different tone of voice, that you'd get a massive, outburst, meltdown, kick off. So it is all about the tone of the voice as well.
Yeah, there's so much around communication, and tone is key. And we know, especially with teenagers and adolescents, that's what they pick up on, is they can really hear that tone straight away and give you that reaction. Actually, that seems like a nice segue to talk about Isaac, really, because I know you've done some great things with him.
Yeah, we have indeed. So it's been a very long journey, a lot of fighting with the authorities and schools, and we never ever got the support that we needed, sadly. So he started showing issues around the age of 3, but he was always classed as the naughty child. You'd get looks in the playground from the mums. Oh, don't go near that child. He's the naughty one that lashes out or anything like that. So he'd stop getting invited to parties and things like that. So as he went up to like infant school, again, the behaviour was just getting worse. It couldn't cope with loud surroundings, lots of children, and there were big classrooms. So he'd hide under tables and chairs. And obviously they don't have, in respect to them, they don't have enough staff to deal. They're trying to teach a class, and you've got a child that needs really one-to-one support. And so he would get more angry, he would lash out, and I'd get a call every day, can you come and pick Isaac up? We can't cope with him. He's been violent. But again, there was just no support for me, no support in getting somebody in to assess him. And they always blamed it on home life, what's going on at the home. And at 3, we did think, is it something to do with what was going, me and his dad separated when Isaac was 3. We lost my grandparents, who Isaac was very close to, within 6 months of each other. And we lost the family dog as well, my mum and dad's dog at the time, which Isaac just adored. So all that grief in one space was a lot for him to deal with. And obviously it was a lot for us to deal with as well. So picking up on our emotions as well. So we did put it down to that for a while. But as time went on, I knew something, that mother instincts that kick in, that something wasn't right. And I was pleading with the schools to get assessments, get help because, this is, that I was starting to not be able to cope. No, he's just lashing out. He's just a naughty child and he's just doing it for attention. And I knew he wasn't. So it got up to, like, was it the next level, 4 or 5, about 5 year old, I think it was. And on this particular day, again, I got called to go in like I would do. I was a PA in Manchester City Centre to directors, and they were so good with me having time off. But it was getting to the time, look, I'm going to lose my job here. It was every day I was being called out to get, to go and pick him up. And this particular day I got called out. I went and he was what I can just call, he was locked in a storeroom cupboard. So that traumatized us both probably for life. He still remembers that very vividly, that time. And he said, and they insisted it wasn't a cupboard, it was a chill out area, but it was no windows. There was just a lamp in a corner and a beanbag in this cell. That's all I can describe it. It's like they just emptied a storeroom cupboard, put a beanbag in it and a lamp, and shut him in there. It was just absolutely heartbreaking. I couldn't talk about it for a while because it was that traumatic to us both. And he was that traumatized when I picked him up. It took me 2 hours to rock him on my knee. He ran out and onto a corridor. The high school of that particular school was upstairs, and he'd run out and I was on the corridor just rocking him. And the amount of teachers that passed and just ignored us it was awful. And you'd get that look, oh God, it's them, the naughty child, she's dealing, that look at that behaviour. So we pleaded and pleaded for an assessment, but nothing happened. And from that day, when I found him in that so-called cupboard, we pulled him straight out of that school. Luckily, Barry's auntie knew a head teacher of another school who got us in there straight away, which was a much smaller primary school, who really did want to help him. And they did get us help, thankfully. But as we were getting that help and assessments done, again, they couldn't really deal with his behaviour. So he was sent to, I don't know what they call them. It was like a centre for behavioural children, I suppose, which wasn't very nice, to be honest. But then the head teacher said, look, you could be waiting years for this. And this is what it's like with the authorities. You could be waiting years for anybody to even assess you. So she said, if you can get the money together, I do know somebody private that you could go and see for an assessment. So we borrowed the money at the time, and we went private, and we got a diagnosis then of ADHD, and they put him on medication, and then that got him then fast tracked to then go into the mental health support team CAMS and start getting the support. And then that managed to get him like one-to-ones, funding to get one-to-ones with him at school and stuff like that. So that was really good. I still had to fight for the diagnosis for the autism, not because I wanted a label for him, because that's nothing to do with it. Just somebody to listen to you. That's all you want. Somebody to listen and agree that they're seeing the same things as you, because you feel like you're going mad. You feel like, am I just imagining this? And you just want somebody to see what you see. But it took me another 10 years to get the diagnosis for autism. It was just such a long process of fighting and getting different assessments done. Then obviously, because he had the diagnosis, we got the help. So we went then to a special needs school, and he absolutely thrived in that environment. It was small classes. I think there was 5 in his class. Don't get me wrong, we still had, ups and downs, but he thrived until he went to the high school section of that school. And as you can imagine, children with additional needs, teenagers, and these particular schools, there's children that go from all walks of life. Sadly, some from not great backgrounds, or they're witnessing things at home that no child should ever have to witness, which broke my heart when Isaac would come home with stories. It was just heartbreaking. But they were just the teachers again couldn't handle them. They were throwing bricks at teachers' cars and all sorts of things. So I pulled Isaac out and we ended up homeschooling. So we homeschooled for a few years and through COVID. And then we managed to get him a place at another special school for his late teens to get through his GCSEs. Again, we had to fight for 2 years for this place, and we had to go to a tribunal, which was we had to pay for solicitors and everything. It was just awful. But I would not stop fighting for him because he deserved to be in that school and have the same support as every other child gets. And at the tribunal, it should never have gone to tribunal. The judge said the school who had said no and the fund had got all the the council, sorry, had got all the figures wrong, and they should have never denied him a place in the first place. So they put us through 2 years of hell for no reason. So then we got a place in that school and he absolutely thrived. He got his GCSEs, he's got his maths and English and all his GCSEs, which I'm just so proud of. And I got a place at college, which is in his second year now and about to finish his second year in college in the next couple of weeks, which is just another milestone. And, you know, from teachers saying to him, you're thick, you're stupid, you'll never amount to anything, Isaac, you're just a naughty boy. I was there to show him different, that he could achieve anything in life if he, you know, put his mind to it. Nothing defines who you are. No disability, no nothing defines who you are. So through my journey, I did a lot of mindfulness work on myself, a lot of my mindset work. And while we were waiting for people to help Isaac, at one point he was, you know, saying that he wants to take his own life. And we were told nobody could see him for 3 years. So I just like, what can I do? Not on my watch, because how can you wait 3 years? You know, it could have happened, you know, it could happen, couldn't it? And I just thought, no, I can't have that. So what can I do to help him? So we started with daily affirmations, mindfulness. We were doing journaling together. We were doing worksheets and we're doing lots of work. And then that started like school. His school was like, what's going on? Is like completely different. What are you doing? So I was explaining to them. So they were like, wow. And we started sharing our journey on social media and it just blew out the park. We ended up being on like 3 different radio stations. They wanted to hear our story. I had inboxes from parents. Can you help us? What are you doing? So we thought, how can we do this on a bigger scale? So we launched a business together, me and Isaac, when he was 7, called Mindset and Me. It's still there on my website today. I have still got we wrote 2 children's books, Isaac, the Master of Emotions, Isaac, the Master of Confidence. We launched affirmation cards for children and teenagers. And with a difference, not just affirmation cards, it actually says why that affirmation is important and goes into detail, because I think children need to have a little bit of knowledge behind it. We've got a workbook, we've got journals. Yeah, so that's still all available today. And yeah, we ended up being in the Spirit and Destiny magazine. We ended up being in newspapers. And we won awards, which was just incredible. And people just seeing our eyes that, you know, it spurred other children on. You know, one particular story which I'll share is I had a mum come to me who bought the affirmation cards and a book, and I didn't hear from her for a while. It was probably a few months later. And she said, you've changed my son's life. And I just want to thank you and Isaac, because he was being bullied at school. And he used to come home from school every day saying he wanted an operation to change his face. I was absolutely heartbroken when I heard that story. And she said, since he's been watching you and Isaac, and since he's been doing the affirmation cards and the journaling and realising who he is a completely different boy, and he stood up to the bullies and he was, you know, completely different, his mum said. So that was just one of the stories that we had. It was just amazing. But as Isaac got older and in a teenager, he wasn't interested in doing Facebook Lives with his mum.
Of course not. Why would he want to do that? Don't be ridiculous.
So we sort of put it on a park bench and I carried on doing my own thing with my businesses. Yeah, so that's Isaac's journey, really.
Well, thank you for sharing Isaac's, or part of Isaac's journey anyway. But Heather, where can people, I'm going to say this now, where can people go and find those resources? Because There's going to be some people that will be like, I need those and I need them now, please.
I think the old website is still available, so mindsetandme.co.uk, but they're all featured on my new website as well, which
Okay.
is www.heatherrose.uk. And if they just go to the folders at the top and just click on Mindset and Me, they'll be able to access all the products there.
Okay, so that's heatherrose.uk.
It is indeed.
Right, and I'll make sure that that is in the notes at the
Oh,
end of the conversation as well. But yeah, what a journey, what a story, what a fight, and that positive thing. So I do notice with you, Heather, that even when you have something traumatic, there is always a positive that you manage to find and implement to help other people. So thank you so much for that. And let's talk about suicide, because Isaac mentioned that he wanted to take his own life, and you mentioned at 16 that you tried to take your own life. And I think that suicide is one of those conversations people hugely avoid. In fact, people avoid the word suicide because they think it will
yeah.
put the idea in someone's head, and we know that's not true. We know that actually what happens is it creates a safe space, especially if someone is suicidal, to talk about it. And it's
Say,
go on.
you're saying that about the word suicide. I got quite a lot of abuse at one point from people saying, when I was starting to share my story and stuff, that don't use that word because you're going to give people ideas to go and to do it. And I'm like, what? Like, and it did like make me stand back for a bit and think, well, do I keep quiet? So how many other people are keeping quiet because people are telling them not to share it because you can't share that?
Yeah. Yeah,
It-
yeah, that's a really good point, and and I think it comes from a place of good intent, but it's also based in fear, and
yeah.
actually all the research around talking about suicide shows that it doesn't put the thought in someone's head. If the thought's already there, what it does is create that safe space for someone to go, actually, I'd really like to talk about how I'm feeling, or it's okay to talk about it, like you said, rather than this pushback of don't use that word. It's almost like that, don't use a word.
No.
Yeah. So let's get it out there. We're talking about suicide, and we're proud to talk about it because it might just save somebody's life if they're listening to this. So at 16, your world sounds like it was horrendous with all the bullying that was going on. It also sounds like you felt quite lost and confused about who you were, plus all those emotions and hormones that we have when we're 16 that can make life incredibly difficult anyway. And I'm going to ask you the question of, if you look back now at that time, knowing all the things that you know now, what would you have said to your 16-year-old self?
Everything's going to be okay. It's just a phase, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. You are worthy of this life, and don't let anybody or anything take that away from you because you are worthy to be here.
Mm.
You are loved and you're special. You've been born for a reason. I strongly believe that every single person is born for a reason, and you're on this planet for a reason to do something. So yeah, life is precious and you deserve to be here as much as everybody else.
Mm. And then my other question for you is, at the age of 16, what do you wish somebody had said to you?
Are you okay? Are you okay? Just those simple three words are just somebody to just say, do you want to talk about it?
Mm.
I said, like, my mum and dad are closed books. All I want, if for my mum to, or somebody just to acknowledge, you know, and ask for that support for me. Like the hospital, as far as I'm aware, from what I can remember, I mean, it may be, sometimes you block things out, things are a bit of a blur, but I don't recall any support of being aftercare or a referral or anything like that being, well, I remember not going to anything, so I presume it wasn't offered. So I was just sort of left alone. My mum didn't talk about it. It wasn't talked in the household. So I presume, like I said before, she hadn't told my dad. So then I kept quiet. I didn't feel like I could have a voice about it. So yeah, just somebody just to say, do you want to talk about it? You know, what was going through, your mind to do something, to do that.
Mm.
Do you need help? Do you need support? Do you just want to talk?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be anything major that you say to anybody. It's just knowing that somebody's there to listen, even if you don't maybe want to talk, but knowing that you're in a safe place to be able to talk if you want to.
Mm. Yeah. Thank you. I love the way you just came straight out with, "Are you okay?" It's just, it's, as you say, it's such a simple phrase, but it's, sometimes we avoid it. And sometimes I think that we don't know how to just approach that in such a simple way. We overcomplicate it when those words are simple and effective and will help open the door. And how did you move yourself forward from that at 16? I mean, that's a young age.
Yeah, I knew deep down, I strongly knew deep down that it didn't happen, that I'm still alive for a reason, and turning that around. If the universe, God, whoever you want to talk, God or anything, whatever you believe in, it was your time, then it would have happened.
Mm.
I wouldn't still be there. So that I did survive that was a blessing, and I had to use that blessing for goodness, and that I was here for a reason. And I did know deep down from an early age that I had a mission. I didn't know what the mission was, but I just knew I had a mission,
Mm.
that to put all these things that I've been through into good use to make a difference to somebody else.
Okay.
And I am that kind of person that I always want to help people, support people. I care very deeply about the world. I do want to change the world, but I can't do that single-handedly. I do get very emotional over everything. You see an abandoned dog, you see a child being, abused, or a child needing a home, domestic abuse, or anything, all these things that go on in the world.
Mm.
I'm very, very empathetic to it all, and I wish I could make the world a better place. But I can, just by doing the things that I'm doing and making an impact in the things that I can personally do.
Mm.
I can't control everything, sadly, but if we get enough people like yourself, me, what I'm doing, then we can make a domino effect in the world and make a difference.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you, Heather. Thank you for that. That little ripple effect.
Yeah.
Drop your pebble in the pond and watch the ripples spread. Yeah, love that. Thank you. And then let's talk about the loss of those 7 babies for you. We'll just go into whatever detail you want to go to or not go to. See how
Yeah, I don't know
see how you
what
feel
to
about it.
share, really.
Well,
Very
let's.
obviously
Sorry, go on.
traumatic,
Yeah.
very traumatic, obviously. But what it has done, like what I've and why I'm doing what I'm doing now, is it's not just the grief you go through. It changes you as a person. You lose part of your identity. It creates limited beliefs that you don't even know are there at the time until you can tie the dots together. The limiting beliefs then moved into my businesses because I didn't feel worthy enough to hold on to anything. So I'd always hit a barrier with my business, a level of success that I probably felt safe with, but nothing beyond that. I used to self-sabotage all the time, and I didn't quite know why. I was doing all the work, I was passionate, doing everything, and I was getting to a level of success, but wasn't getting past that or where I wanted to go with things. And it wasn't until obviously doing the NLP work that we've done, and obviously all the mindset work that I've done over the years, tying the two together, the limiting belief of not being good enough, you know, I weren't able to hold on to all these 7 babies. So why would I be able to hold on to a successful business? And it's just all these things that affect your whole life in different areas, your relationships, who you are as a person, how you see yourself. It's not just the grief of the actual loss, which is traumatic itself. It's all the other things that we have to deal with, and no one has those conversations about those things. There's no support for those things, and it's very isolating and very, very lonely.
Mm.
And you go through all the trauma of do you want, like, is your husband going to stay with you because you're not able to, give them a baby? You can't hold on to anything. Is it my fault? Is it my body? Is it because I'm too fat? On all the time, all the times I've been told that I am fat. I probably wasn't back at that point, but that all goes still through your head. Is it my fault? Is it my body? I'm useless. I'm worthless. So it just for me, having those limiting beliefs from the past trauma, from the younger years and all that, what I went through, it just embedded those negative, thought patterns even more. And I did have a few really, really dark times where I did think about, do I need to be here? Because it is very I have, I don't deny, I do still, struggle with my mental health from time to time, but I know how to come out of it now. I know, the tools that I've got in my tool bag, and I want to be here. I want to be here. So yeah, very, very hard. But again, using it, I don't want to say dwell, but making making a positive out of something negative.
Yeah.
You've got to think those babies are not here for a reason. They're in the world looking down up there, and they're still supporting me. But there was obviously reasons why they couldn't be on this earth plane. And I have to believe that, they wouldn't have had whatever quality of life being here. For some reason, they weren't meant to go full term, for whatever reason it was. So I have to look at that and look at the positives as well. I wouldn't have had Isaac probably. So yeah, I think if you just got, everything's for a reason. I know it's really hard to think that when you're going through something so painful, so traumatic, something, and going through all that grief, but you really do have to think that everything is for a reason.
Yeah. So my friend Claire, who did the previous podcast, talks about the loss of her 7-year-old and living with grief because it never goes away. It's always there, and taking small steps every day, taking those
Yeah,
just those
that's
little
all you can do. It's small steps. And it's really helped me talking about it. So many women that I speak about, people that I really know well, and I didn't even know that they've had a loss until, I've started more recently talking more about it. But for me, I found sharing all of my journey very, very therapeutic, part of my healing journey.
Yeah.
And, people have said, why have you shared so much on social media? But it's not just to build awareness, which obviously part of it is to build awareness, but also a therapeutic journey for me, a healing process. Talking about, I've shared my story in books as well. I've been a co-author of some published books, sharing my story. I just think as well as people having those conversations with you, which we've got to urge more of because people are not having those conversations. I urge the other way around as well. Please talk about it. Please don't keep things inside because it does eat away at you, that grief, and you do need to talk about it in whatever way you feel therapeutic. If you don't feel that you can share it, like I've shared it, even just writing it down, journaling your thoughts, getting it out, because when we bottle things up, it just eats away at you. It's got to come out sometime. We've said it's like a jar, isn't it? A jar of feel. You can only put so much in that jar before the lid is going to pop off because it can't take any more. And that's what our bodies are like. We can only take so much before we pop in whatever way that is. So yeah, whatever, have conversations, talk to people, don't keep it in, find a way that makes your grieving process a little bit easier. Like you've just said, it never goes away. We've just got to learn how to live with it, how to deal with it, and try and turn things into more of a positive. But journaling really helped me. That was one of the big things with both me and Isaac. Journaling really helped us. So if I can recommend that to anybody, I really, really would. And even, I wrote letters to my babies as well. So whatever you find is therapeutic for you, just find that way, that way to deal with your grief.
Okay. Thanks, Heather, for those tips and for sharing your story. So let's talk about the positivity around, because I know you've got a new podcast You've got things going on around supporting other people that have gone through baby loss. So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing around that.
Yeah, so obviously I've got the business as it is now where I help women in business.
Yep.
And that obviously goes into detail of, again, helping them with limiting beliefs, because when they struggle to show up online or struggle with confidence, it's because normally there's an underlying reason why. So it goes back to all the limiting beliefs and working out where that comes from and rewriting that for them. So I have different programs that help that. But what I'm going into more of is I've just launched, obviously, like you said, my podcast, which is The Truth After Baby Loss. There's 2 episodes out there now on all, obviously, podcast apps. You can find that. So come and have a listen. And it's just now I want to just build more awareness around these difficult conversations about things that are not spoken about, that it's more than just grief, the things that I've already mentioned about my journey. And there's more sides to baby loss, you know, the lack of care a lot of us get at the hospitals, you know, how to have conversations with your partner, how to, you know, how your friends can approach the subject. So we've got all different conversations from all angles. We've got an episode coming out soon of me and Barry. We've had a very long conversation, an open conversation of things that we never discussed around the baby losses that we had together. So that will be a very interesting podcast to hear it from the male perspective. And that's what I want as well, is all different perspectives. So if anybody does want to come on the podcast, please reach out. I would love you to be on there to share your story, you know, if you've been through anything similar. So yeah, I just want to build awareness, but also want to help women not struggle for the amount of time that I struggled. And I just want to help women who've been through grief, loss, whether that's baby loss or grief or trauma, to refine themselves after that loss or trauma and that grief, to refine who they are, to refine their identity, to refine the purpose. Because a lot of the time we feel that we don't have any purpose left. What is our purpose? And then working out whether there is any of those limiting beliefs that have been created that are stopping them from fulfilling their life fully. You know, it might be affecting the business if they've got a business. It might be affecting the work life if they've got, you know, a corporate job even. It might be affecting home life. It might be affecting relationships or just moving forward. And that's what I'm really, really passionate. Oh, I'm getting emotional. Oh, really passionate to help, because I struggled for a long, long time until I got the help and support and did the work. And I don't want anybody to go through all that trauma that I went through. And if I can just help even a handful of women, then I'm living my life's purpose.
Thank you. What a lovely way to end our conversation today, Heather. I'm so grateful that you gave up your time to be here today. I just I'll stick my teeth back in. Let me just tell people where they can find you. I think they can say the word. So you're at www.heatherrose.uk and your podcast is Truth About Baby Loss, available on all the different platforms. Is there anywhere else or any different places that people can
The
find?
podcast is The Truth After Baby Loss.
After
It's all right.
Yeah, Truth After Baby Loss.
And yeah, I'm on all socials just as Heather Rose. I rebranded to just be me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Heather. Just a fascinating story.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm just so grateful that you were able to join us today.
No, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast. I hope you found it useful. There is a list of helplines that you can use at the end of the transcript. Please reach out to somebody if you need to talk about anything that has affected you today. Please like, share, and subscribe. We're trying to make a big difference in the world, and we'd really appreciate your help. Thank you for listening. Take care.